They represent the kind of courageous leadership of which Southerners and all Republicans are rightfully proud. And I'm especially grateful because I've relied heavily on them for the last 3 years. And all I ask is, send me more.
Hi, I'm Melissa, and welcome to this month's Live From at the Reagan Library. Remember, we do these on the first Wednesday of every month. For the past 12 years, the Ronald Reagan Presidential Foundation and Institute has been led by our executive director, John Heubusch, who's now set to retire in about a month. In the past 12 years under his leadership, the Reagan Foundation conducted a year-long worldwide celebration in honor of Ronald Reagan's centennial anniversary, completed an entire renovation of the most celebrated and most visited presidential museum in our nation, opened the new and highly successful Reagan Institute in Washington, D.C., and grew our endowment to the largest in our foundation's history. But before he departs, we thought it would be fun to put him in the hot seat, bring him on this Live From, and ask him questions about his experiences here for the past 12 years. Now remember, this live cast is only going to work if you participate. So right now, go into that comment section below, ask your question for John, leave a question or a comment for John. Don't be shy. This might be your only chance, your last chance to ask him a question. So right now, go into that comment section and let's get started. Thank you so much for joining us today, John. A little weird to be in this seat with you.
Great to be here with you, Melissa.
Fantastic. So giving our audience some time to ask some questions, I have a couple questions for you myself. Now, I know how you got the job. I've heard the story, but I thought it might be fun for our viewers to hear how you got the story and what the interview process was like.
An intense interview process because this is one of the just best organizations in America, run by some very important people, and the trustees are just, it's kind of a board to die for. So Fred Ryan, our chairman, wanted to make sure that everybody on our board, was able to would talk to me, take a measure of me, and boy, a couple of dozen interviews across the nation, and but it was such a fun process because I really got to take a measure myself of the organization, having spoken to the trustees. Pretty intense though at the as I reached the end of the interview process, as you can imagine, last in line, Mrs. Reagan. So I went over for what I thought would be somewhat of a relaxed and brief interview, and it felt that way at the start because we sat down in the Reagan's living room, and Mrs. Reagan, we made some small talk first. 2 hours later, with a lot of sweat on my brow and a lot of nervousness, and oh my gosh, was I put through a test because Mrs. Reagan is so on top of everything happening at this great organization that she really wanted to press me. She did, and fortunately, I guess I must have barely passed the test because I made it here.
And that interview was at her house. It wasn't here at the Reagan Library. It wasn't at an office building somewhere. It was at her house.
Yeah, it was right at home in the Reagan's living room, and she served coffee and tea, and we sat with the Reagan's, President Reagan's book collection, his personal book collection, right to my back, and I just kind of stood up in wonderment. I stared at it in wonderment for many minutes, trying to look at the titles and say, oh my gosh, this President Reagan was as well read as I thought he was. It was really an impressive venue and impressive moments, and it started my my career at the Reagan off really well.
And so fortunate that she was alive then, right? So as we're looking for your replacement and she's not here anymore to help guide us, and that's such a shame. So looking back over the past 12 years, this might be a hard question because you've done so much for us, but what are you most proud of?
You.
Thank you.
First, before I get to proud of, what do I feel was a gift, was to be working alongside people like you and the whole team of senior management here, which is an incredible blend of smarts and loyalty and dedication. And so I learned a lot in the process of being the executive director, and it's as a result of the terrific team of people here. One of my you know, if you think of big, heavy words like legacy and, you know, what am I leaving behind? I probably, I think, am most proud that the team was able to raise an enormous endowment, you know, hundreds of millions of dollars, which ensures that the Reagan Library, the Reagan Foundation, will have the lights on in perpetuity. It's a great thing. I think we should be proud of the new Reagan Institute, our Policy Institute, which is just steps from the White House, and so important to the legacy, the vision, and the values that Ronald Reagan stood for, now placed right in the heart of Washington, D.C. So when, you know, somewhat of a metaphoric way, we were able to bring President Reagan back to Washington, which is really important. And I think the program of activities and events here, it's such a library has such energy, and it attracts people. It's become a cultural gathering place in Southern California, and so I think those things are probably will be the longest lasting, most important things.
And for people who may not be aware of either what our institute is or what it does or where it's located, you said perfectly it's bringing Ronald Reagan back to Washington. Can you share with our audience where the institute is actually situated?
Yeah, well, the address is 850 16th Street Northwest. Truly, I could, if I stood at the front door and threw a rock, it could land in the grass at Lafayette Park. So it's right there next to the White House. You can literally see half of Washington from the rooftop. It's a great location where, again, important people are already gathering for important events right there in our nation's capital. So it's a perfect period at the end of a great sentence.
So my last question before I get to the questions that our viewers might be watching. So again, comment section right now, running out of time. My last question is, what are you most looking forward to in retirement?
Getting to know my kids better. Now, by that I don't mean that I don't love them, know them well already, but you know, there's nothing more precious in anyone's life than their family. And this job that I've had, you know, it's had me work pretty hard and spend a lot of hours dedicated to President Reagan and his legacy. And now I think when I get up in the morning, they'll be my priority, and I'd like to get to know them even better before they're off to college in this next few years. And so that'll be a real pleasure, and I'm looking forward to it.
That's great. I'm sure they're going to appreciate that too. So we did have some questions come across. I'm going to look at those right now. One came across last night, and she wanted to know, what was your most memorable day at the Reagan Foundation and why?
Wow. I'd have to say it's probably the very day that we celebrated the Reagan centennial, February 6th, 2011, because there was just such an enormous, colorful crowd here, and to see Mrs. Reagan on stage enjoying every bit of the moment, I just stood back and took it all in, and was really proud of the team here that made it such an incredibly fun and exhilarating event. And you know, it was a wonderful day, really.
So I was going to say the person's name, and I've lost it as it scrolled by. Oh, there it is. Joe wants to know, what is your favorite Ronald Reagan biography?
Well, I don't. You know, Lou Cannon's works are important, of course. You know, he spent a great deal of with President Reagan, covering him as a reporter during his governorship and the presidency. But I'd also have to say, I couldn't zero in on one. I would say four Craig Shirley's books, you know, from Rendezvous with Destiny and on. They're just, they're really readable and interesting, but educational at the same time.
We also were asked if you ever had the privilege of meeting President Reagan.
Yeah, I did a couple of times when, you know, his entire presidency. I worked on Capitol Hill, and you know, my role vis-a-vis Ronald Reagan at the time was I worked on a number of defense issues and on the House Budget Committee, and my role was to help get the Reagan defense budget passed in Congress, and in that role I had a chance to not only be at a couple of meetings, shake his hand and meet him, but also I was able, by hook or crook, I actually snuck into a few of the president's, every single one of his State of the Union addresses in Congress, because I worked on the Hill and I could get tickets, and man, what moments those were. I mean, really special. Frankly, it's one of the reasons that I took the job at the Reagan Foundation, is my way of paying back and doing what I could to support Mrs. Reagan and the president at the tail end of my 18-hour-a-day career.
So in going through this, I see a couple of questions that are the same, so I'm going to combine them. For viewers at home who don't know this, you are also a novelist of thriller novels, and there's a couple of questions in here all relating to that. You've written 2, or you've published 2, I guess I should say. So one of the questions was, when is the 3rd one coming out? And one of the questions is there any talk about making one of them or more of them into a movie?
Yeah, so when's the 3rd coming out? Well, sooner rather than later now, because I'll have time to finish it as I retire from the role. And it's going to be the 3rd in the series of, that extend to the first 2. And I'm about halfway done, looking forward to finishing that. But if I can, I'd like to write another 5 novels, just because I love to write. And so I'm sure that a good part of my time in the next 60 years of my life will be spent as a writer, and it's one of the funnest things I know.
We do sell signed copies of his books here in our bookstore, so.
And to your movie question.
Oh, yes.
I really wrote the first 2 books and am writing the 3rd almost like it reads almost like a screenplay, so that I've never had the time in the middle of this job to try to become a little more expert on Hollywood, but we live nearby, and if I have the chance, I'd love to see those works put into film, just because I think it's such a cool and fun story.
The next couple are just comments I want to read to you. Clyde, thank you for watching. I love Reagan so much I named my daughter Reagan. That's awesome. Charles, to you, John, thank you, sir, for all you've done to preserve the legacy of the greatest American president, which is so true. We had a couple more come in yesterday. We already asked you that one. Thank you for your service. What did you learn that most surprised you working at the Reagan Foundation?
What did I learn? Well, of course, I lived the Reagan history, but I never worked at the White House for the president. So in order to be expert on Ronald Reagan, that you need to be in a job like this, you need to read a lot. Original material, speeches the president wrote himself that he might have given in a Saturday radio address, or you get in depth into who Ronald Reagan really was, and so I learned a great deal more than I knew from living the experience, and so it got me a little bit book smart on Ronald Reagan, just as I was, an important moment in my life. It's I can't think of a better way to cap off a career that's been involved in politics.
Sure. You've had the honor of introducing and interviewing hundreds of people, heads of state, members of the media, politicians, people in academia. Do any stand out as your favorite, and why?
No way can I give a favorite, because you're absolutely right. I think at last count, Melissa, I have interviewed on stage or introduced 250 VIPs. I mean, these people are the top of their career, the best in their craft, and I learned a great deal just from sitting in the same room with them, much less speaking to them. But I think there's like incredibly smart, brilliant writers I always respected from afar, like George Will. But they're maybe I would say all of the people I interviewed running for the presidency, that's such the job they're running for. It's the most difficult job in the world, and just to have a chance to sit and talk to them about what their plans and dreams are, and and to be able to do it within a couple of feet and get good answers, that was a lot of fun and really interesting.
You're so good at it. So this next question, honestly, feel free to say no comment, but we just asked you what your, who your favorite person was to interview or whatever that might be or introduce. So let's go the opposite way. Again, clearly you've met a ton of people here, and obviously you can't name names, but can you share a story of just an absurdity that happened while you were working here, something you couldn't believe happened?
As I was talking about those that I most enjoyed meeting and interviewing, one of the pleasant surprises in meeting that many people important to the nation and to America is you're really hopeful that as persons, beyond their public persona, that they are genuinely decent people, fair-minded, the kind of people you'd like to emulate yourself. And I would say 95% of all those I met turn out to be that way. It's the old adage of they put their pants on the same way in the morning, and it was wonderful to discover that. On the flip side, there's the occasional person that you might have greatly admired from afar and had never met, and then once you have the chance to meet them, wish you might never have met them. Now that's just a very few people. They always say, don't ever meet your heroes, because sometimes they don't measure up to what you thought of them. And there's just a handful of people that fit that category, and but it's a real rare moment for that to happen.
Talk off camera. Susan wants you to know that you've accomplished a wonderful job of making the Presidential Library the best in our country. There's some great comments on here we'll share with you later. Someone's brother-in-law was actually on his protection detail. Thank you all for watching. We're going to end with my last question. And your answer better be me, but I'm kidding.
It's you.
Done. We are done. Thank you for joining us. What are you going to miss most about coming into the Reagan Library and working here every day?
Well, I'm not kidding. I'm going to miss you, Melissa. I'm going to miss you, and I'm going to miss Joanne and Jerry and Tony and Michelle and the whole senior team. I'm going to miss working with such talented people. My team, my staff, everyone on the Reagan Foundation staff might have felt maybe they learned a little bit from me, but in return I learned a lot from them. And that's what life is all about, is learning. And so this was a great place to learn.
Well, thanks for being with us today. Thanks for working here for 12 years. Thank you to your family for letting you work here for the past 12 years. You and I have talked. It's been, for me personally, the best 12 years of my life working under you. So we want to thank you all for joining us. As always, we finish each of these by talking about our museum store. So we're going to go look at museum store items right now. We're going to say goodbye to John. And we're going to head to the other side of our room. So come with me as we move across. So we have something new for you today that we are super excited about. For our first time ever, we are offering a special gift just for you viewers who are watching right now. When you go to our museum store, I'll tell you how to do it in just a second. In the promo code box, type in LIVE5, L-I-V-E, and the number 5, no spaces. And when you purchase from our store, you are going to get for free this Ronald Reagan signature It Can Be Done mug. So this is something you don't want to miss out on. Now, normally when we talk about our museum store, we talk about our 2 ways to shop. You can go to our actual museum store, reaganlibrary.com/store. Scroll down to the featured product section, you'll find everything we're talking about. And then of course we also talk about our Amazon store, amazon.com/Ronald Reagan. But to get this free mug, you have to go to our website. So once again, reaganlibrary.com/store, buy whatever you want, and in the promo code box, LIVE5. It will be active through May 11th, and get this free Ronald Reagan signature It Can Be Done mug sent to your house with whatever you purchase. So what is also fun is this is Brand new products. All 4 items I'm going to show you today just went into our store about 2 or 3 days ago. These are all brand new signature products made specifically for us here at the Reagan Library to carry on Ronald Reagan's legacy. The first is really fun. It is a very heavy Ronald Reagan phone stand. It's not a charger, but it does have a hole in it so that you can put your charger from the wall through the hole, and you can actually charge your phone while it's sitting on your desk. Really beautiful piece that could sit on your desk and decorate it quite nicely. We also, with our signature Ronald Reagan Presidential Library logo, we have a set of men's cufflinks plus a money clip. Again, brand new, just got to our store a couple of days ago, so you can be one of the first people to purchase any of these items. Now, we talked about our free gift, and the free gift, again, is our It Can Be Done mug. For those of you who may not be aware, It Can Be Done was one of Ronald Reagan's favorite mantras. It was a plaque on his desk. In fact, that plaque, replicas of that plaque, are some of our best-selling items in our store. So we just made this It Can Be Done beautiful desk clock. So as you're trying to finish that project at the end of the day and you're watching the time wind down, you can keep telling yourself, it can be done. And lastly, we have a new series here. It's been a year now. We started in May of 2021. It's called The Time for Choosing. One of Ronald Reagan's most famous speeches is the Time for Choosing speech that he gave in the 60s for Barry Goldwater. And we now have a program here called the Time for Choosing Speaker Series, where once a month we bring in someone from the conservative movement to talk about where the Conservative Party is today, what's its pluses, what's its minuses, what does it need to do to improve. And so the store made this really fun Time for Choosing hourglass that does work because it's always a time for choosing in anyone's life. So again, purchase any of these items or anything from our store. In the promo code box, type in LIVE5 and you will receive for free this great Ronald Reagan signature mug that says It Can Be Done on it. We thank you for watching. We thank you for joining. We do apologize for being late this morning. We had a little bit of a schedule snafu, but thanks for sticking with us, and we'll see you next time.
After almost 80 years, the secrets of the most destructive war in world history are now revealed. In a world premiere exhibition, explore hundreds of rare artifacts never before seen together that tell the compelling stories of World War II. This one-of-a-kind museum experience unearths the backdrop of the unsung heroes and their actions, which altered the course of the war. Secrets of World War II, now open at the Reagan Library. Don't miss it.